So there.
Yeah.
Just convinced them.
That's one of the best reminders that indeed we are functioning. So glad to have you all here today. Today we begin a new series, and the whole series is led by a group here at St. Thomas, the Creation Keepers, and perhaps during the process, someone will from the Creation Keepers will be so kind as to describe what that group is, because I'm sure that you welcome other folks to be part of that. But Art France is going to be our presenter, our facilitator today, and very glad to have him back. So, Art, take it away.
Did you want to make did you have an announcement you need to do?
Well, yes,
Or you want to do it at the end,
as we kick off this series for the next 5 Sundays, we have various themes that we want to speak about and highlight. Tonight, the CBEM discussion on social justice has a lot to do with the intersectionality between creation care and social justice. And so I hope you can join us for that. It's a very brief video that you can easily find on YouTube, even if you just search on YouTube, Adele, A-D-E-L, Georgia. So it's a local issue. Our neighbors not so far, to our south, and it brings out some points on that. So I hope you can join us for that at 6:30.
And in order to access that session, if you'll go to the CBEM
Yes,
website, Chattahoochee Valley Episcopal Ministry, there is a spot for registering for that. When you register, you'll be
Get
sent
the
the link for hooking up to that session. CBM has been having these striving for justice conversations once a month. They've done this for the past several months. It's been an excellent series dealing with things. So hope you will be part of that.
Okay. So welcome. Happy Earth Day.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. It's been a glorious spring. Would you all agree? It's just kind of some of the days here lately. I'm from Southern California, and it reminds me of balmy summer days in Southern California, which were rather magical. So we're going to start out the series. I wanted to start out just with kind of an idea. Let's do some celebrating of Earth Day and of the Earth, and we're going to do that by some storytelling. And I want everyone to encourage everyone to kind of think of something. And we probably won't get to everyone today. I'm going to start out with a story, and actually 2, and then just kind of ask everyone to share any kind of story of you and the earth, you and nature, something funny, inspiring, spiritual, awe-inspiring, something especially that helped you really feel and appreciate the world that we live in. So we'll get to that after a couple minutes. So I'm going to start first with the dark story and just go at it for a few minutes. I'm trying to keep this very brief, but there's a dark story going on. And I don't think we can turn our back on that. And then we're going to go to more celebratory stories. So in nature, all is about balance. A dull and unexciting word, the via media the middle way. This doesn't sound very exciting. The hydrologic cycle, I think I said that right, which is the water cycle, carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, oxygen cycles, all work together to foster the evolutionary processes that create the diversity of life unique to this planet. At this time, we know of no other planet in the universe that has such a robust life-creating system. We like to think there's some out there, and there probably are, as vast as the universe is, but we don't know that. We humans are creating a great imbalance in the world. The Earth's systems evolved to create an equilibrium that establishes a near perfect environment for life to flourish. Our recent population and technological expansions are a boon to humanity, but it's fostering what scientists are naming the sixth great extinction. That seems to be becoming a common phrase that I'm hearing more and more of. Scientists estimate that without a radical change in direction, perhaps upwards of 50% of all species alive today on Earth will be extinct, maybe by the end of this century. It's also believed that after a major extinction, it takes millions of years for the planet to fully recover. These events disrupt and can radically change the course of evolution. Note the great meteor strike 66, or asteroid strike 66 million years ago, completely changed the course of evolution. We are the disruptors. We're facing a major loss of the natural world we live in, which has birthed us, continues to nurture us, and support our activities. It is impossible to predict exactly how this disruption will affect us and our civilizations, but without doubt, it will be detrimental in many ways. Knowledge of the disruptive impact we are having is easily available to us. Knowledge of how to avoid the catastrophe is also available. What is not easily apprehended is the level of sacrifice that will be needed to meet this challenge effectively. So here's a little bit, I'm just going to go through a little bit of just kind of general things about what's happening. The Earth is warming. Glaciers and ice caps are melting at an alarming rate. As the whiteness of the ice vanishes, the water and the rock underneath absorbs more heat, accelerating the warming. Tundra is melting, releasing a great deal more of greenhouse gases, accelerating the warming. In the west of our country, wildfires were seasonal in late summer and early fall. Now they are year-round. The wildfires release large amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, further accelerating the warming. A potential mega drought is emerging in the western part of the US. Australia, Central and South America, and other parts of the globe are seeing more drought. Atlantic hurricanes are becoming more frequent and more powerful. Since 1950, coral reefs have declined by 50%. The Great Barrier Reef off of Australia may be gone in a couple of decades. So, off of Google, I got this information, so I hope I can trust it. 40% of all insect populations are declining. The bird population, Christine, the bird population in the US has declined by 30% since 1970. So I could go on. There's a lot more information and it gets overwhelming. I mean, you don't want to get overwhelmed. However, I think it's important not to turn away from what's happening. There's a lot. This is a difficult world we're living in now. And the news always tends to tell us the bad stuff for the most part. So it's difficult and get overwhelming, but at least read things like the recent IPCC reports, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So my reaction to it is that the scientists or the people writing that are beseeching us to wake up, pay attention, and act. And scientists do not often beseech us. It's not in their nature to do that. And again, I also caution against going too much into, I mean, it can be overwhelming and overloading. You don't want to do that. That's, you just need to know that there's something big happening. Assuming most people understand that here, but again, the rate that it's happening seems to be accelerating. So not all is gloom. There's a lot of things that are changing in good directions. There's certainly a lot of technology, a lot of knowledge being developed. The knowledge and the technology are there and developing that we can tackle this. It's just not happening fast enough at this point. I guess is at some point it will, but I just don't, I don't think anybody knows when that will happen. We're real good at immediate crises. So before World War II, we sat around and go, isn't that terrible what Hitler's doing? Well, isn't that terrible what the Japanese are doing? That has nothing to do with us. Pearl Harbor came and boom, the country changed overnight. Everything changed. The threat was in our face. I don't know what's going to take for it to get to that kind of level where we go, okay, now is the time to act. Because that's basically what the scientists in the IPCC report are saying. It's now, we've got to act now. So I don't know what it's going to take to get us there. I thought we were there a couple of years ago. Several cities in the United States were destroyed by wildfire or hurricanes. People were seeming to wake up, and then the pandemic came. So that's starting to go away. Now war came. So this is hard. It's not easy to figure out how to deal with. So just a bit about creation keepers. We're just working to try and raise awareness of the problems and to focus on the big and little things we can do as a parish and as individuals to do our part to help ward off the catastrophe. It feels like a little grain of sand. Kathy and I are building a house and we're putting solar panels up. I feel real good about that. We feel real good about it. It's just a grain of sand, just a little grain of sand. But I'm going to quote Gandhi. Gandhi once said, whatever you do will be insignificant, but you must do it anyway. And just maybe along the way, some momentum. Somebody goes, oh, you did that. What's that like? But how's that working? And things may start to speed up. Go down Auburn Avenue to Edgewood, and you look across the street, and there's solar panels. Guys got solar. Somebody's got solar panels up on their roof. Okay, well, that's something. Okay, now we're going to stories. I'm going to tell the good story, the fun story. Why stories? Stories tell us about each other. They connect us. They reveal us. Stories of the earth and nature reveal our relationship to them. The earth is important just for our survival, but there's more to it. There's a relationship there. We are connected to everything in the earth. Brian Schwartz will talk about that. Third session or fourth? Fifth session.
The fourth session.
Fourth session. Okay,
On
Brian
the
Schwartz will
15th.
talk about the interconnectedness
Interconnectedness.
of all life on earth. There's beauty there. There's amusement there. There's joy there. There's awe there. And my personal belief is God is revealed in nature. And when I say nature, that includes us. We are a major part of nature, an important part of nature. We just haven't gotten that yet, I don't think. Okay, so my story. This was almost 10 years ago. I used to go, the man's passed away now, but I used to go visit a man that was my friend, my mentor, my godfather, my grandfather. He was quite something. He was, to me, a genius in what he was a genius in. And I go and I spent several days with him, and as always, I come out of there with seeing the world different, seeing a different vision of the world. It's the same world, except I'm seeing it different. And I don't know what he did. I don't know what happened or why that would happen, but every time I was with him, I'd come out and take about an hour or two driving down the 405 freeway or to go away, but there was just something about him. So on this day, as I left, I decided to go by a place, one of my favorite spots on the California coast, Point Loma, San Diego. So I drove out there and got out. It's just a balmy, beautiful summer day, not a cloud in the sky. And I went and looked and faced the ocean, and I never have had an experience of blue as I did at that moment. Blue, it was so much blue. The sky blue meeting the ocean blue, and I was just overwhelmed with the experience. And it stayed with me for a while, in that for a long time afterward, I was just mesmerized by blue, by the color blue. Didn't have a real good explanation for that. I don't know what, other than I was just. And I've looked out over the ocean hundreds of times. Never had this experience of it like I did this day. And so as I'm telling this, I'm realizing how it's hard to express. So I do what I do sometimes when something's hard to express. I wrote a poem. It's not great. It's just, something I do sometimes. Called Blue. Charged with mystical vision, after 3 days with my friend, whose still present affects me in ways I cannot explain, my eyes open to a heavenly vision of the world, usually obscured by earthly concerns. I drove my car to the end of Point Loma, San Diego. I parked, stepped out, and turned to face the ocean. My eyes were flooded with blue, the turquoise blue of the sky, the lapis blue of the ocean, meeting each other at the boundary of sky and water to form a continuum of blue. My mind was dazzled by the blue of the earth, my body engulfed in blue. All my senses were sparkling with blue. I was immersed in a palette of blue. For months after, I am mesmerized by blue, the blue of the sky, the blue of my grandson's eyes, the Delta blues. As Dylan sang, I'm tangled up in blues. Blue is a word used to name a specific visual sensation, a name for the color of the earth's essence. In the end, I am left feeling blue. I do my best, but visions of the deeper mysteries of this world are beyond words. Such profound feelings can be experienced, but then silently sequestered for a lack of adequate vocabulary. All right, one little, just to add on that, about blue, one little statement or a short paragraph from this book, and then we're opening it up. So this is a little statement by Rebecca Solnit. The world is blue at its edges and in its depths. This blue is the light that got lost. Light at the blue end of the spectrum does not travel the whole distance from the sun to us. It disperses among the molecules of the air. It scatters in water. Water is colorless. Shallow water appears to be the color of whatever lies underneath it. But deep water is full of this unscattered light. The purer the water, the deeper the blue. The sky is blue for the same reason. But the blue at the horizon, the blue of the land, that seems to be dissolving into the sky. It's a deeper, dreamier, melancholy blue, the blue at the farthest reaches of the places where you see for miles, the blue of distance. This light that does not touch us, does not travel the whole distance. The light that gets lost gives us the beauty of the world, so much of which is in the color blue. So we're the blue planet. Blue is the color of the earth. So I got lost in blues, and that's what came out. Please don't compare. I mean, I had weeks to do this. So you start, just keep, simple stories are fine. I kind of went off on a tangent here. I got kind of lost in this because I wanted to really find a way to try to communicate, because it was a mystical kind of experience, something that doesn't normally happen. So at this point, please don't be shy. Anybody else? I mean, I could fill up the hour with stories, but I want to hear from other people. Yes.
I have one in, I refer to myself as a charismatic Anglo-Catholic, if that makes any sense whatsoever. It's part of my background and my conversion. But a couple of years ago, a Roman Catholic friend and I planned a trip to Conyers. And we decided to go to the Miriam farm. For those that don't know, there is a farm in Conyers to where in the 80s and 90s, a woman claimed that she would have visions of the Virgin Mary and Jesus Christ. And people used to go there a lot. In fact, they even had bumper stickers that said, "Come to Conyers, eat, drink, and see Mary." So whether or not you believe, I would say this, and whether or not you believe this is actually true, I would definitely recommend going to the farm. The woman has since passed away, but the place itself is a wonderful place of contemplation and prayer, and it's just out in nature. And there's several different places you can go to prayer, and there's a trail to where you can walk through the woods and see rock formation and trees and all that, and to where you can stop at the different saints and ask them for prayers. And then there's, on this hill, there's a round circle with a bunch of crosses to do the Station of the Cross, and then you see the giant cross in the middle. And in the middle, there's a bench. And I was just sitting there and I was praying. And all of a sudden, I just start saying, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Meaning, Lord have mercy. And I just kept praying that over and over again. I don't know why to this day. And then on the drive back, me and my friend, because we had separated for a bit to do our own thing, me and my friend, we were talking, and she said, "Yeah, I went over to this one side, complete opposite end of the farm, to where she saw a cross, and she said, yeah, I was just praying, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy." I'm like, "You too, huh?" And we were both like, and we calculated it to where it was around the same time. It's like, okay, that's very interesting. I would recommend, especially if you're ever needing a place of even just peace and quiet, either the Miriam Farm in Conyers or the Monastery of the Holy Spirit, the Roman Catholic monastery that's there. It's just something about those two places where you're surrounded by nature, and you're surrounded by these statues, and you just feel that peace And whenever I get so stressed out, that's where I tell them, I'm like, I gotta go to Conyers. I'll be back at the end of the day.
Thank you, that's right, I mean, that touch into that little bit of realm where you go to a different, cross over to something different for just a little while out there on that farm, so thank you for that. By the way, can I have your name? I don't know.
Ro,
Ro?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a big fan of wild places, like places where we haven't really touched much. So you go out places like Kahana Wilderness, in some of these more isolated areas of national forests, and you have such a sense of finiteness, how finite we actually are. Especially like you get into some of these areas where people obviously haven't been for a very, very, very long time. And you start seeing like found stone foundations where somebody was like, I'm gonna tame this chunk of land. And it's like, well, no, maybe this wasn't a good idea. But you begin to realize we like to think of ourselves as some type of master of our domain. Like we are here to subjugate the earth and to whatever. But when you get back in those places, you realize, we're just kind of lucky enough to be here because we really don't belong. Like, really don't belong. If you've ever done any backpacking, I was out with a buddy of mine in the Cahutas one night. I mean, we weren't even that far in. We were maybe a quarter of a mile in, and something just started. We were camped down on the bottom of a trail. And right above us, something just started moving up along the ridge line. Like pitch black mangrove trees, because the Cahutas is, as much as it's in the North Georgia mountains, it's also a tropical climate. So you have these big, massive mangrove trees and everything intertwined, and it's almost tropical rainforest-like. It's a lot like the Olympic Peninsula up in Washington State. Very thick, very dense. And at night, you can't see 5 feet. And like you're sitting there and it was wet, couldn't get a fire going, nothing. And it's kind of like, oh, you don't belong out here. But that sense of finiteness, to me, it brings you closer to God and gives you a better aspect of our relationship to God and what we mean to God. When you're able to experience how finite you actually are versus how incomprehensibly infinite God is.
Thank you. That's yeah. I kind of think of it as how kind of small we are. Finite's a good word. Experience I had years ago, sitting at Dead Horse Point in Utah, and looking at the levels of, oh, that was 100 million years ago on the cliffs across. So that was 300. I'm thinking, I got maybe 70, 80 years. God has hundreds of millions of years. And then immediately I start getting, and I like what you said about appreciating that we're just here. I like that. I mean, that's hard to get to. We get so caught up in our worries and concerns and whatnot. Just that we're here individually as a species, it's amazing, actually. If you really think about it, it's amazing that we're even here. So thank you for that. Chris.
Hey, Art. This is what I can't get out of my head these days. This is a story we all shared that we're all still part of. But if you think about the first half of 2020 when we were shutting things down, what did we learn? It's possible. This can be done. We can drive less, we can fly less, we can buy less. And what if we did it without the sickness and the fear and the separation? it's possible. That's the story.
Mm.
That's a conversation I hope we can have before it slips into the past too far.
That was the odd thing about the pandemic. It gave us a window into the possibility of the recovery aspect of the earth
And
if we do that.
so easy to miss in the midst of all the other things we were concerned about, but it happened.
The numerous pictures that were published during the pandemic of before pandemic, during the pandemic, looking at cities in which you could see things as opposed to just a cloud, just a haze before, and that was really a very striking and hopeful shift.
And it was so fast.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Well, the other thing that kind of dovetails into what you're saying, we have this weird fear of the unknown. That we have an irrational fear of death as a species, as much as it's around us. Drive down the highway, you're going to see death. And we have this irrational fear of it. We have this mass fear of things we don't know, and I think at times God pulls back the veil and kind of lets us catch a glimpse into that. You get, like I said, you get out into some of these places that are truly wild, and like you may not see someone for a week or a month. And there's a lot of unknown you're all of a sudden confronted with. What if I break a leg? What if I break an ankle? What if I fall? What if I lose my path? What if I lose the amount? And it's not till you're 3 or 4 days in that you realize I'm in trouble. I'm this far from the edge. But we tend to stay in that place of fear. So we never look at what could possibly be. And like you said, what, 3 months? 3 months, air quality change? But I think we also realize how much we actually need community during that, like how important, like unplugging and one-on-one interaction and seeing people as just people and as creation, as part of nature, and inherent worth and inherent value just in their existence, regardless of any other thing that's present. I think we had that curtain lifted briefly during the pandemic. And the question becomes, how do we make that a more permanent thing?
Thank you. Anybody have any? He's a little hesitant. You're on the spot now.
You got some.
I'm not sure I can express it quite right.
Well, you write a quick poem.
But in a nutshell, I think most of my most wonderful experiences have been somewhere in nature, including living in Utah for a while. But we go to the beach every summer, and we camp right across the dune from the ocean, and we've always been fascinated with the turtles there. It's a nesting area, and we've always seen evidence of it. The tracks, we've seen the nests boil up, and the little ones make their way to the ocean, which draws a crowd, and everybody's very respectful and great about it. But we've never seen mama come out of the ocean until a couple of years ago. And now we've seen it a few times. I don't know if we're more in tune with it, but we'll walk out there 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. And it seems like there's no one out there except for maybe some lone figure down the beach. And finally, when that first happened, I can't even express watching this primordial creature come out of the water, pull itself across the beach, up the shore, and then settle in. And by then, there's usually about 4 or 5 people there. Everyone's quiet, like druids or something, and watching this marvelous event. And you can hear the breathing, you can hear the sand. It takes hours sometimes, and we just stay and prayerfully watch. And I have to say, that does remind me of how finite life is, but I also feel like I'm part of something eternal.
Yeah. And that just an experience of getting out of one's personal life and realizing you're just part of something whole lot, little piece of it, but part of something a whole lot greater that's going on, the whole life force that's here on this planet.
I have just a quick, wanted to piggyback on, we're talking about the master of our domain. I have gotten a lot of mileage out of our journey group and that sort of way to internalize and interpret the Bible, reading through relationships, our relationship to each other, our relationship to God, our relationship to the earth. And on that last relationship, I had a brief, oh my God moment when, and this gets to that cyclical nature. We have, in my husband's retirement, we have put in my dream, which was kind of a waterfall pond. My husband did all of this work. And so now we've got this little ecosystem of fish, and we, even on Earth Day, we found we've been being serenaded by frogs, and now we've got tadpoles, hundreds, maybe even thousands of them. But on this particular time last year, because we have these wasps that nest in our Helleri holly, and they get up in there, and my husband, I had said, man, we gotta, you get boxed in and you can't cut them because now all of a sudden they surprise you and you're stung 10, 12 times, which is a very painful thing. So my husband had rented a fumigator to kind of cover that area, but he's doing that work. And, we all know about pesticides, and I'm sitting by the pond, and it was just a slight breeze, but around the corner of the house, I can see the fumigating fog. And it was like an, oh my moment, where are these fish now going to be this pesticide settling on the surface of the water? And so to that master of the domain, or our dominion, it was just an intense reminder that we're not the master. This little ecosystem, we are the keeper of that. And it just really was a moment of how all things are cyclical, and it is complex, but we've just got to do better to be a keeper.
I'll get you just a couple points that I thought of when you're talking. One is we can really connect with nature right in our backyard. It's right there. Now if you put too much pesticide out, it won't be there. But or parts of it won't be there.
Well, I did yell at him and I said, we've got to find another way. We've got to find another way. It's a quick fix. It's a quick fix, but it's not a good long-term solution.
Well, the struggle I have, and I try to work, how can I more live with nature? So there's some wasps in this little shed up on the land that we're building on. Do I need to go kill them? When I go in the shed, they don't even notice me. They don't even pay any attention to me.
And they are
pollinators. And the only time I've been stung by a wasp was when it was accidentally crawling up my leg and I started doing this, and it stung me about 5 times. But the wasps don't even seem to notice me. So do I really need to go after them? I mean, I'm nervous, they make me a little nervous, of course. We're having a discussion about carpenter bees in the house that we have up there. Oh, you gotta get that glass on. Well, I'm saying, but they're pollinators. So I don't know. I don't want the bees making holes in all my new cedar woodwork up there, but I don't know. It's a struggle.
So to piggyback off of what you were saying, I think one of the things we so often lose in reading the Bible and in trying to figure out what God's word is actually telling us is the sense of stewardship. Over and over and over and over again, God puts things into the dynamics of stewardship. Of you are given something by me, have care for it. And I think that sense when it comes to all aspects of our lives, one of the biggest changes I had in recent years was when I started looking at politics more from a viewpoint of stewardship. What am I electing people to do? Am I electing them for talking points? Am I electing? No, I'm electing them to be stewards of this area I live, the money I pay in taxes and things like that. So what would a good steward do for their people? And when it comes to taking care of nature, I look at it very much the same way. Well, I have this wasp nest. Well, what would a good steward do? How can I help the wasp move to somewhere that's going to be more, but that's something a steward would do versus I'm master of my domain because I've made this thing. Oh no, the thing was already there. We kind of did things with it. So how do we have that sense of stewardship in all aspects of our lives?
Right. It's kind of a mindset to develop. And it doesn't mean we don't alter nature at times or do things or cut down the tree that's dying, it's going to fall on our house. But it's just a thought to me, a mindful, thoughtful process of noticing that the wasps don't particularly mind me being in their territory. So do I really need to go after them?
The strongest idea.
Michael?
The most spiritual place I think I've been is southern Utah, southwestern Utah.
Yeah.
And there was a canyon. I happened to be hiking alone that day, and there was a little stream going through, and I was completely alone, in this place. And I sat down and I just opened my mind up and says, "Speak to me." And this, blue sky, a raven flying over, nature, and I just. And I heard the words that God has never spoken to me this loud. And he said, "Be still and know that I'm God."
Wow.
And it sounded like God was right here, audibly loud.
Wow.
And I was so overwhelmed by that that I've never forgotten it. And then at that particular time, I was really missing my mom. And I said, "God, will you tell my mother, how much I love her?" And he said, "Why don't you tell her yourself?" And I looked up and there was my mother.
Oh my God.
In the middle of all of that. And she was there for just a fleeting second. I was able to hug her.
That's powerful. I mean, that's incredible.
But I've never forgotten it.
Yeah, no.
And I remember I go back to that one thing in nature where it really literally spoke to me.
Well, how many folks in the Bible went out to the wilderness to talk to God, to find out what God wanted, to connect with God? I mean, that was Jesus went out for 40 days.
Yeah, that just reminds me, I grew up on a farm in rural South Carolina, very rural, very quiet. And one thing, I moved away from all of that when I was 21. And one thing that's striking to me was noise pollution. And I remember growing up on the farm, we had so a lot of acres, and we grew everything and raised everything pretty much that we ate. And just being able to sit on a rock in the creek that ran through our property, or hearing all the frogs at the pond. And it took me a while. I mean, still I'm bothered by noise pollution. You know, I love our home and Columbus, but sirens, how many times do I say, I can't take this?
Leaf blowers.
Yeah. And when I grew up, I was immersed in just, the sound of birds and frogs and crickets, and our house was not air conditioned, so we got it throughout the day. It was just, and how I miss that quietness. And I do think living like that gives you more of a chance to meditate and be in touch with yourself and everything around
Absolutely.
you. And yeah, it's.
No, I feel you on that.
You guys are reminding me of something, I was, I just moved here from Colorado in September, and at my old house, I'd start every morning walking along this creek bed, and right at the time of sunrise, I have a dog that likes to walk. And I still walk early here, but it's in a neighborhood. I haven't quite figured out how to replicate that experience, and I know there's places here somewhere. I just haven't figured it out, So,
No, there's some, I mean, you might look at Lake Bottom Park, there's a lovely creek that goes right through there.
yeah, well, I kind of want, it'd be perfect if I could just walk there, but
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Just,
that is how I like to start the day,
okay,
outdoors.
sounds wonderful.
I could.
The river walk is nice.
We're about at our limit, okay.
Can I make one quick announcement as well?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Quick announcement, just for all the enthusiasm that I'm hearing in the group, and we appreciate your participation and attendance. The Creation Keepers are also trying to survey the parish, and so there is a current survey still running, not too late. If you could respond to that, I promise you it won't take that long. And it's our way to sort of get temperature in the parish, but to also Art's point, we don't think that we've got, oh, great, we've got this outreach committee, the Creation Keeper, Green Team. We are all that serving as that function. And so if you could either participate through the survey, but begin to reflect in these next 5 Sundays how we can all continue with those networks in our own daily life community and the wider community.
That's an online survey?
Yes, in her communications, it's still out there. And so yeah.
Christine, could you also mention who our speaker next week is?
Oh, yes. Our speaker next week is Keith Sims from Mercy Med. He's the farmer, and if you have anything to do with that mission or know of that mission, he is quite a committed Christian and religious person, and sees his faith being sort of used as providing food and good, nourishing, sustaining organic food for people who can use that type of living sustainment.
Okay.
So Keith Sims.
Thank you so much, Art.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. Wonderful story. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the day. It's beautiful.
All right, yeah. Your blue